Hi, we're Group 6. We're focusing our project on General Motors. Here's an agenda of what we're going over today. First, we're going to look at their corporate social responsibility, why it benefits the company, a SWOT analysis, GM's current position, analysis of pollution prevention, recommendations, and how we would implement. Some benefits for focusing on CSR. For society, it benefits the stakeholders and the environment. It creates a higher value in the company for the stakeholders and makes the environment more sustainable. It also gives GM a competitive advantage over other competitors, as well as increasing profits.
Okay, so now for the SWOT analysis. Strengths. So GM is one of Canada's largest automotive dealer networks, and they provide a large range of fuel-efficient automobiles through advancements in electric, hybrid, and green technologies. They have a huge global presence through being a leading international competitor in sales, and they have a strong knowledge of their home environment and are an established brand name. They also have 4 well-performing sub-brand names, including GMC, Cadillac, Buick, and Chevrolet, and they have been selling these automobiles in more than 120 countries. Some weaknesses for GM Motors are attributed to a diminishing number of dealerships, as seen in the last few years. There has been a large amount of car recalls for the company due to the quality of their vehicles being inadequate. There have been more than 2,400 dealership closures and 14 factory closures in 2009 due to bankruptcy caused by an inadequate performance in certain business segments of the automotive industry. Because of this, GM is also experiencing decreasing liquidity from having lower sales volume and a reduction in working capital.
All right, so now onto the external factors. GM has an opportunity to introduce a new brand or a new vehicle lineup. Specifically, they could take advantage of the electric or hybrid technologies. GM could be one of the first brands to create a car that runs entirely of hydrogen fuel. For the threats, GM's main competitors are Toyota Motor, Ford Motor Company, Honda Motor, and Chrysler. And a second threat is the threat of substitutes, such as walking, biking, and public transit if available. But the threat of new entrants is low due to the high costs associated with the industry. Next, I will dive into Pestle as it has majority threats. So political, there is currently little political influence. Actually, the Conservative Party of Canada is highly criticized for its lack of concern with the environment. For economics, there are exchange rates that affect international trade, and there are fluctuating fuel prices, which definitely affects how people purchase cars. For example, when prices are high, people more readily see the value in hybrids. Now for social. Consumers are more environmentally conscious these days, but that does not significantly affect their decision when it comes to vehicles. For technology, there are many advancements in the automotive industry. Vehicles are expected to have more advanced technology than previous models, with features such as parking sensors, parental controls, and driver altitude controls. In addition, of course, there are the hybrid vehicles which require new technology to keep improving. Legally, there are new regulations put in place by the political party to cut CO2 emissions. Manufacturers have to ensure that their vehicles built between 2017 and 2025 produce, on average, 5% less emissions every year. And then lastly, the environment is how emissions affect climate change.
In regards to our current position, GM has made numerous efforts in implementing their clean technology and pollution prevention objectives. This can be seen in their new lineup of electric and hybrid vehicles, such as the 2015 Chevrolet Spark and Volt. Another example of GM acting on their clean technology and pollution prevention objectives is through their use of renewable energy in their facilities by installing multiple solar panels. They've installed multiple solar panels at 18 of their facilities. They derive 2.1% of their U.S. energy usage from renewable energy. They also recycle 84% of the waste they manufacture, and the cars they produce are 85% recyclable on average. They also publicly support Habitat for Humanity Foundation. The alignment that GM has with this organization demonstrates their green initiative to the public. However, there are many opportunities in developing countries for GM to act on. GM can implement more offensive CSR policies, such as eliminating waste in the environment instead of reducing it. They can also increase the demand of their electric vehicles by lowering the cost structures and making them more affordable to lower-income consumers. The CO2 emissions on many of their vehicles are still higher than vehicles of other automobile companies, such as Tesla and Toyota.
All right, now on to gap identification. GM has efforts in every single part of the Hart Sustainable Framework but since GM is part of the automobile industry, they have a large negative impact on pollution. Through further analysis, we have identified that GM is lacking in its efforts to reduce pollution. Now for the analysis of pollution prevention. We will be going through the environmental principles and policies, GM's operations, GM's research and development, their administration, and lastly, their building awareness.
GM has 6 policies in place in order to make their facilities more environmentally friendly. GM is committed to restore and preserve the environment, reducing waste and pollutants, educating the public, developing new technologies, developing environmental laws and regulations, and assessing their impact on the local community. These steps outline a set of standards for each facility to follow and are an example of a CSR activity GM has in place. Some facilities are leading the way with these efforts, but others need to do more to catch up. Overall, this is one example of GM's CSR activities that is working towards lowering the company's environmental footprint and becoming more sustainable.
Okay, so for operations, General Motors has been updating its manufacturing plants in hopes of creating a more efficient environment that will cut down on costs, improve efficiency, and decrease the amount of materials wasted in the production of the vehicles. The same manufacturing platforms are being introduced at all of their plants around the world, and it will not only increase productivity but cut down on waste through the use of newer technology. GM is taking a step in a positive direction through implementing new technologies to produce less waste and overall increase efficiency. In 2013, GM installed a new rooftop solar array in their Toledo facility that reuses landfill gas. In addition, 111 of GM's facilities are now landfill-free, meaning that all byproducts produced daily are reused, recycled, or converted to usable energy.
Research and development. General Motors is among the largest automotive companies in the world. In order to be successful in today's environment, it is important for companies in the automotive industry to be consistently looking for better ways to reduce pollution from the vehicles they produce. GM has taken a step in the right direction for producing vehicles that produce less pollution. They have a number of hybrid cars, as well as one purely electric vehicle, which is the Chevrolet Spark. The Spark is just a glimpse of what GM has in their research and development section, and more to come. Not only is GM continuing to build and improve their hybrids and electric cars, they are also exploring hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. These vehicles emit water vapor rather than carbon monoxide, so they are less harmful to the environment. Although they may still be a few years away from producing a hydrogen fuel cell model, it shows that GM is trying to find alternative ways to reduce pollution and make their vehicles more environmentally friendly. Also, GM's vehicles are 85% recyclable at the end of its useful life, which shows their dedication into trying to create a more environmentally sustainable product.
All right, so there's a lot that administration is doing to help reduce energy usage, which in turn reduces the amount of pollution General Motors as a whole creates. To begin, administration has been purchasing certain things that reduces their energy usage. They've purchased energy-efficient light bulbs, some of which have motion detectors and some of which are scheduled. Second, there has been upgrades in the heating and cooling systems to make them more efficient. And third, weather stripping has been installed to prevent air leaks. These are all in select and various facilities. Moving on, administration is tracking hourly consumption and also scheduling equipment to be turned off when not in use. Now, all of this taken into consideration, GM has been able to reduce their energy use per vehicle, which is about 28%. This was accomplished in 5 years between 2005 and 2010. In recognition of some of these accomplishments, 8 facilities have earned Energy Star certification, and 70 plants have met EPA's Energy Star Challenge for Industry. What this challenge is that GM avoided over 778,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. Lastly, I would like to touch on how top management and administration of General Motors is networking. General Motors is a founding member of the Business Renewables Center. The center's goal is to substantially increase wind and solar energy used by corporates by 2025. As stated above, GM is highly involved in solar energy and has been looking into wind power. GM specifically has a wind farm supporting majority of the energy demand at the Toluca complex. Also, GM has developed a Green Dealer Recognition Program which celebrates the sustainable efforts of dealers. This is showing that GM is influencing industrial change. So overall, GM has many initiatives and efforts all differently applied at different facilities.
GM has done many things to improve their sales and marketing. They have repositioned the prices of some of their models to be cheaper than the vehicles of their competitors. An example of this is the price reduction in their 2006 Chevy Malibu, making it cheaper than the 2005 Toyota Camry by $2,600. They are also focusing much of their attention on their top 4 brands, Chevrolet, Cadillac, Buick, and GMC. They have also introduced new electric vehicles such as the Chevrolet Volt and the Chevrolet Spark. Being considered one of the big 3 American automobile industries, their reputation in the market is virtually unmatched. However, they are still in a position to improve their marketing and sales. They are struggling to keep up with the market since the introduction of more environmentally friendly and energy-efficient vehicles. Also, their vehicle lineup can appeal to many more customers through better segmentation and differentiation strategies. They have also recalled around 30 million vehicles in 2014 alone due to inadequate quality of their vehicles, which can hurt the reputation of the company. In terms of sales, their inventory is piling up due to overproduction and decreasing demand of their vehicles.
So now I'm going to give our 2 ideas for General Motors. The first one is that General Motors should enter a partnership with Apple. The second one is that General Motors should continue to expand its use of renewable energy. The first recommendation came up because of something that we found while doing our analysis. Recall that GM vehicles are actually being recalled for simple malfunctions. Now, these malfunctions are overcompensated by the vehicle, resulting in additional pollution. So the idea is that partnering with Apple will provide financial stability for GM to invest in research and development to fix whatever operations are creating its malfunctions or fix whatever about the vehicle design that results in the malfunctions. The next question you may ask is, what does Apple get out of it? Apple will be able to install entertainment systems in all of General Motors vehicles. So this will benefit the planet because by ironing out the vehicle design or the operations through R&D, GM vehicles will pollute less. This will benefit people because of the ease of use. Consumers will not be interrupted by recalls, and they will have an easier time using entertainment systems. There has been consumer research on how entertainment systems these days are just too confusing. With Apple's simple design that any average user can use, the user's experience will be enhanced. So both companies will profit. GM will gain an absolute competitive advantage by integrating its products with Apple's products. Actually, Apple products already support OnStar, which GM vehicles also support. And as a quick note, there's a rumor about Project Titan that Apple has been working on. The project is all about Apple creating its own car. Now, there's a lot of skepticism around this rumor, but if Apple was looking for a way to enter the automobile industry, this partnership would allow it. Lastly, General Motors and Apple share 2 key values, innovation and being environmentally conscious, which will allow for a cohesive partnership between the companies. Now, on to the second alternative.
So the second alternative that GM should consider would be to use their renewable energy in more facilities. GM has a total of 396 manufacturing plants worldwide and is currently using renewable energy at only 111 of these plants. If GM can make these technologies available at all of their plants, it would greatly reduce the waste they produce. This would also in turn aid in reducing the waste generated and would also save them money overall as they would be reusing their old materials and wastes in new ways.
So for our recommendation, we chose the renewable energy alternative. Okay, so now for our long-term implementation. The first step that GM needs to take in their implementation plan is they need to allocate a reasonable budget for the renovation of the plants and factories. They need to set a goal of installing solar panels on at least 1 plant per year because this is a fairly reasonable option. Due to GM's current financial crisis, it would be hard and costly for GM to install solar panels on all the plants at once. The long-term goal is to have all old plants running on solar energy to reduce the amount of pollution they create. When it comes to CSR reporting for GM, they will be able to produce results for their stakeholders to see. They will be able to record how much they have saved per plant when comparing it to plants that do not have solar panels installed. This will show stakeholders how they're being more environmentally friendly by using renewable energy to power their plants.
So to every plan, there needs to be a contingency plan. The contingency plan we came up with to implementing renewable energy across GM facilities is to extend the administrative plans throughout GM facilities instead. Simply, if GM cannot afford to install solar panels everywhere, then GM will instead install energy-efficient lighting, which will be either scheduled or have motion detectors, and GM will track hourly consumption and will turn off equipment when not in use. All these small changes will reduce energy, resulting in reduced pollution. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.